Oh, mother.
A little baby polytune can't handle the strength.
I'm going to tell you something about those polytunes. Those little baby pedals.
What?
They can't handle, a big old click sometimes. You put your foot down on them, and they just...
I sacrificed my larger chromatic tuner for Joe's rig here.
Here's the thing, though. I walked in, and you had Joe's rig sorted. You
Jared's a
built
big guy.
a stereo rig.
I call it a baby Bonamassa rig. He didn't have any complaints. As you'll see, he actually just left. We've already recorded this episode with Joe Bonamassa. He told us how he really feels.
The No Cover Charge podcast is a safe space for you as a guitar player.
Joe would want us to say this. It's very controversial, and he really cares what you have to say about everything that he thinks.
So make sure to leave your comment.
In all seriousness, Joe is a master guitar player, incredible musician, songwriter, singer, just the whole package, and really nice to spend some time. He brought an incredible guitar.
And we did the cool thing with your Les Paul and his, which was like,
yes,
dude.
There's so much jam-packed into this episode. Without further ado, Joe Bonamassa.
Nice. Nice.
It's like driving an old car. There are pros and there are cons. In my world, the pros outweigh the cons. But there are some days when just things will just fight you.
So what is this old car?
This is an old car.
It's a very old vehicle.
How old is it?
Jared texted me and he said, Joe said he's down to plug into whatever and he's going to bring a special guitar.
This is PJ. PJ got its name.
That's my rhythm tone.
It's on the case. And the original owner's name is PJ starts with an A, Abrams or something like that. And PJ Abrams was from Johannesburg, South Africa. And this guitar spent most of its life in Johannesburg, South Africa. I have two of these old ones from South Africa. There was actually a lot of gear traded during the late 50s and 60s in South Africa. They had money. I know a friend of mine here in town has a Neve console in Afrikaans.
Nice.
Yeah, it's an old broadcast console. They've married together, but it's in Afrikaans. You hear these stories of people going down there and finding Sunburst Les Pauls, like our friend John Schultz from Birmingham, Alabama. He found this during COVID. Asked me if I wanted to go, and I said, John, that's a young man.
Operation PJ.
Operation PJ. But
I mean, not many people are willing to go down there.
But we pulled it off, and he pulled it off. And this is a Les Paul on the wall, and we could do this. You know, we could finally put this to rest. This is a Sunburst Les Paul made in the USA factory.
Yep, it's like a
2017. And this was a Les Paul standard Sunburst made in Kalamazoo, Michigan in 1958. Now, we'll play a couple of things on both, and then we'll see.
It's a 58. Mine is a 1980 original.
Okay. Now one
Kalamazoo.
is worth a lot of money.
Got it.
I've had this
That there.
since 1980.
And one is worth a couple, what, $2,000-3,000.
Check this out.
I'll give it to you for 22.
22.50. 22. Fine.
Somebody was rocking.
Somebody was rocking. Anyway,
Exactly.
yeah, let's I can't get his nice talking. I always say when you buy an Epiphone or something like this, or R9 or something like that, you can rule the world with anything. Now, they're all based on what they're, what's this guitar worth? Well, some could say somewhere between $400,000 and $450,000 based on that cap, that wood, and the color, okay, and the originality. It's a house. In most places in the United States of America. It's a fucking house.
Oh, yeah.
House guitar.
It's a house guitar. Now, are you getting $298,000 more in sound?
I don't think so.
No, you're not. And what you do get with these is you get a totality of craftsmanship that the pickups and the electronics are all from the late 50s, and they're all military spec. So yes, are the potentiometers better on an old guitar? 100%. Is the taper better? I struggle all the time with the taper of the new pops because it's not Gibson's fault, it's not Fender's fault, it's not anybody's fault. It's not even CTS's fault because if you think about it, the guitar business really is one of the few businesses where these are still required.
Yeah, exactly.
This cable, the equivalent cables was used 100 years ago by operators.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're
already out.
We're out. I mean, so you cannot blame CTS for going, hey, listen, we don't use these potentiometers in B-52 bombers anymore. So we're only making them for Gibson, Fender, and a few other people. So yeah, do they come from China? Is the taper weird? Yes. Okay. That's not bad. And people go, well, what kind of pickups are you using?
Stock.
Right. They sound like humbucking pickups. And you know what these sound like?
Humbucking pickups.
They sound like humbuckers. And now, are there magic? There's some of these old ones that we've done this a bunch. Also, there's some that are like, okay, yeah, it's, output? Is it a little bit maybe fatter in some ways? Yes. Is it $398,000 better than that? So we can once and for all. You have the king cork sniffer in the middle seat here. Okay?
That's a reserved spot.
You're talking about there's multiple versions of this on the road. Probably 2 and 3 Dumble amps. Okay? Why? Because if I don't use them in a cracked application, like on the road or in the studio, what bother?
How long did it take you? Were you always this way when you had nice instruments? You were like, they're coming with me?
Yeah.
There was never any sort of hesitation with any nice stuff. Like, what was the breaking point when you're like, if I can take this out, anything's coming out?
Well, I got this first Sunburst Les Paul about 15 years ago. We called it Magellan. And I got it from a guy here in town, Elliot Michael at Rumble Seat Music, and my friend for over 30 years.
I got that stuff.
And he comes to my show in Albuquerque, and he's living there. And he's like, you need to play a 59 Les Paul. So I also need an Aston Martin. They're like a house in Beverly Hills.
Right. Yes, I do.
I said, I agree with all these points. He goes, well, why don't you take, I have a burst, and at the time, in 2009, a Sunburst Les Pauls was right after the financial crash, and these were dead. It was gone. It was free fall. I mean, it was just where it started. There was nobody buying them. They've since recovered a bit. And he goes, well, let's do this. Give me $1, and I'll give you this 59, but just pay me off on time. But you gotta play it every day.
$1.
Yeah, I did better than that.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy. And I could have held him to his word and still be paying us for it.
Still, he's that good.
$4 a month. So I take the guitar, and I do a whole run from the East Coast to the West Coast. I then fly with it to Australia, and I do a whole run, and I fought Virgin Australia, I fought Qantas, I fought getting guitars on the plane.
Oh yeah.
Finally to the point I was just buying seats.
Which is now your MO from your Instagram post.
You want a guaranteed outcome?
Yeah, buy a seat.
Buy a seat. It's unfortunate, but you want a guaranteed outcome, and they still try to bump the seat. They still try to bump the guitar if they're oversold.
Oh my god! So they come up, they're like, "So I know you have that seat, but we're oversold."
I've had them come up to me. I had a flying V, big brown flying V.
How do you say no? Because I'm not a pushover, but God, I don't like confrontation in that way, especially in a plane. What's the Joe Bonamassa ticket? No.
Well, a lot of times, when you're carrying something like a flying V can be big.
Yes. They're nice.
Like a 5-latch, lift, and it's not that big. But a lot of times you're just sitting there waiting for your group to be called, and you'll see the gate agent, and you see that little red tag, and they come right over to you, and that's when you find out 2 seats. Yep. And you're like, I have a seat for it. So I remember I was flying here, and the stewardess comes over with the gate agent saying, "Hey, listen, we're oversold, and we need that seat for a passenger." And I said, "Okay." I said, "We have to put the guitar in the closet." Well, the guitar doesn't fit in the closet.
Oh, baby, baby, don't let me go.
It's not gonna happen.
No way.
And the worst thing you can say to airline personnel is, "You don't play the 'Don't You Know Who I Think I Am?' You don't play the 'Don't You Know Who This One Is?' They don't really care. They don't really care about you. They actually hate the passengers. They despise the general public en masse every single day with their quirks and there's just people raging on it. Oh yeah, every single day. They hate cargo or carry.
Oh, never been a boss.
I said, can't be a boss. I said, you can bump me off the flight. I said, I cannot let this guitar on myself. It is too valuable. It's like, well, we'll take
Can't be a boss, baby.
Obviously, this thing has value enough to me that I purchased a seat for it. I said, so I bought a seat, so you can bump me, or whatever. I said, or this guitar can stay, and you can put a red tag on me, and I'll ride it.
That's pretty good.
And they finally just gave up, and I just said, you just bumped me off.
That's what I
flight.
wanted.
Right.
You could do that. I mean, they have the right to refuse service to anyone, but if you're a traveling musician, I know it's really, really tough. I mean, especially now there's all this stuff going on, but the cost of being in the guitar business and being in a band and out there on the road is gone up exponentially in the last 36 to 48 months. And unfortunately, you hear the horror stories of people giving up their guitars and coming in. It's like
clean that up a bit.
Or having their stuff stolen when they're on the road and then having to recover from that half the time.
To the point of you can get to this point. This is a good lead into okay, why are amp models so popular on a lifestyle for this reason?
Yeah.
Because you can make a pedal board that's smaller than this that has a Neural or a Line 6 or whatever those amp models are, and a little Seymour Duncan power on it, and all you have to rent is a 4x12 or a cabinet, and that's a whole rig that fits into the front pocket of a backpack of your gig bag that fits in the overhead, and you don't have any of these issues. And if you're going, I'm gonna check my head, or then you start getting into these costs and fragility issues that just ultimately don't. You end up just eating into your money, and you come home, having cut a check.
Right.
So that's what I think some of the popularity of the modeling is some of it is because they're pretty good, and some of it is because of just sheer necessity.
Do you own any?
No.
You don't have any in your bed?
Here's my thing. I'm terrible with technology. I have this Tesla coil effect on digital electronics. I could shut my phone down just
Looking at it.
and I have very little patience. And like if I'm going into a machine, like a fractal or whatever, and I have to make decisions of what mic I want to use, what position of the mic I want to use, what cabinet, what speaker, what what version of the AC30 or Fender Twin, and then have to get all these parameters. I can just go up to a Fender Twin and
Just do it.
What does that?
in 30 seconds. It seems like, but I'm also a very one-dimensional
my
type
head
of player,
hurts.
a very one-dimensional
Oh, something new I'm writing.
kind of artist. I do.
Probably couldn't hear a thing
what
he
I
was
do.
saying. I'm sorry.
I'm the bull in a china shop with too many notes. It is what it is. Discuss ad nauseum. Don't care anymore. I'm self-aware of what I do. Now, if you're in a side man or woman situation, and you have to have access to all the channels,
Of course.
then those things are great. But you have to be prepared to spend hours and hours and hours of programming.
I had to do a date in New Orleans, and the gear never made it. And the guy goes, "Don't worry, I have a Kemper. I've listened to how you play, and I'm going to have you lined up so quick." And I looked at him and I said, "I'm not sure about that, man, because I don't know how to use one." I was really nervous. And he goes, "Trust me, we're going to put it through the monitor." So we get to the sound check. The first thing that happens is he puts it through the monitor, and it was like an ice pick. And I was like, oh no, turn that down. And I had him like cut all the treble off. I was like, crank the mids, and of course it's like a crappy monitor. So then,
It sounds like how the monitor sounds.
yeah. So then we get into the show and I'm playing. And I was like, just give me the most basic sound. So I get there and I'm doing it. We're in the first song, and I'm like, all right, cool. And I don't even know how to turn the thing up. I don't know how to do anything. Well, something happened where unfortunately the power cable popped out of the Kemper. Now I look back, no guitar, no sound. The Kemper looks like a VCR that's been shut off. And I go, okay, cool. So then I try and look for the guy, and he's over there drinking a beer, and he's like, what's wrong? And I was like, your machine is broken, sir. You're the X-ray machine. He goes and plugs it in, and this is the best part. The band's still acting like, oh, we'll just keep playing through the solo. All of a sudden it goes loading, and it's got a little bing, bing, like a little bar for loading. Your nightmare scenario
Restarted.
the best part is, when it came on, it was like a DI tone. And I was like, oh, cool, so now the guy's got to reset up my tone. Dude, I remember the days of a PD Classic, when that thing would stop working, and you just start hitting it. Albert Collins style, dude, hit it with the guitar, and all of a sudden, there it is.
Bang into it.
God, man.
I think also too, when you rely too much on one entity, and if that entity decides to take an unauthorized union break, you're kind of at with a capital.
Totally, dude.
I've had it where the power conditioner, the Kikusu, I used to run all the way on one, and then night and day just defaulting, and shut the whole thing down. I was like, I can't do this anymore.
During the set?
During the set. And I said, after that night, I said, we can't do this anymore. So I have now two of them. Half the rig runs on one, the other half of the rig runs on the other, and the pedal board doesn't run on either one of them. So if one goes down, I still have half the rig passing signal through a pedal board, and I can get through the songs. You know what I mean? I can get through the night. But if you have just one thing, it's a very lonely feeling when you're up there going, I can't get anything out of it.
And a moment could feel like an eternity.
It does. It does.
And then your playing suffers. If you're half playing through a rig, you're like, at least I can limp through it. But if you can't even do that, then it's just like...
What's the practical application? Are we talking about, like, does this pedal sound great just in a controlled space? Or does it work in a gig or in a studio? It's sometimes I never get the reference point. So people send you stuff and they want gear reviews.
They ask for different things. So some of them want gear reviews, some of them just want me to have it, so maybe I'll use it, unless I want to sell out.
Wow.
Have you ever sold out?
You look at your fucking back.
You got a Joe Bonamassa back scratcher, my guy. Well, dude, you know what always pisses me off with gear reviews is when someone, let's say they take a tube screamer or a fuzz face or something, they're doing a gear review on it, and it's like, I don't know what it's going to sound like when I play it. I don't know what it's going to sound like with a band. You know what I mean? You're in a controlled environment. What does this sound like through a loud amp or through a tube amp or on a stage? You know, that's the big gripe I have.
I think it's more about demonstrating the inspiration potential of the gear more than if you're looking for how is a piece of gear going to sound through a YouTube video. I think at this point we become educated to know that that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Maybe that was how things started, but at this point, gear reviews, anybody in my space will take bigger concepts and work the gear into them. It's not just straight up, you put this knob here and this knob here, this happens. But as far as, I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but that type of content used to be popular. Now, for some reason, it's not really in vogue.
I was with Paul Gilbert, and we were talking about stuff, and I was like, I don't know, man. I was like, I just use really basic stuff. And he goes, yeah, that's because you need basic tones. And I was like, ouch. But he said it in a nice way, because he was like, certain songs you need certain pedals. He was talking about like univibes. So he did like this big univibes deal, but I don't know.
Have you ever been convinced by a gear review?
No. I basically what I try to do is whatever the review says or the suggested application, I try to do 180-degree opposite of that. Yeah, my thing is extreme with amps and even some of this stuff. It's like, you know, I've had many a big peak amp owners bring an amp to a gig, you know, going, hey, you know, check out my whatsoever, you know, whatever it is. And I go, that's cool. And I'm like, how many watts is it? And they're like, well, we do a 30 with a half power. I'm like, dude, there's 700 watt amps. It's like, it's not, you're not gonna hear it. Right? We're not gonna. And then I'll turn it all the way up and just see what it does. Or I get it up to like 3/4, and sometimes you just hear them they start burning out. You know, like they're like
Warbling?
Yeah, and you know, giving up. And then the guy freaks out. It's like, well, it's not really designed to run that loud. I'm like, well, then make 410. And you know, it's like don't put these numbers on the pot. You know what I mean? Don't put them on the knob if you don't expect somebody if you can't use them. You know?
When I watch you play, like, or when I played through your rig, you played through Joe's rig, there's a power and there's something that it just can't be replaced. It's like that Sun amp I got from you.
Right.
When you turn it on and it's at a certain volume, it's doing things sonically that can't be done at lower volumes. So I think it is kind of funny when people do have rigs where they're like, oh, this is a 15-watt amp, but you know, it's going to have everything you need in it. And it's like, well, it's not one size fits all, I feel like, with amplifiers.
There's an application to it. It depends on how large the drum is. You know, the Princeton Reverb is a great amp. It's one of Leo's best inventions. But with a big drummer, with a big foot and a snare, that 15 watts is going to get eaten alive. Right. You're going to be like, and you're going to be on 10 the whole night, and you don't want that.
The compromising.
The dynamic ranges, you know, there's so many different sounds just being able to turn up and down. You know, conversely, you know, if you're playing, you know, Cavalier Jazz Club in LA or Bay Potato, and you decide to use 7 amps, I mean, it's going to be overkill. Yeah, I mean, you got to read the room.
Yeah.
You know, now with the invention of like more bands are either no stage volume or very minimal stage volume, and so you can get away with a lower wattage amp, you know, in the ears. But you know, it just depends on the application and the kind of music.
At the moment, how many amps are you running on stage right now?
So they're not all on at the same time, but they're mid drivers. It's something I came up with years ago. Like you know, I used the Silver Jubilees only. I was like, man, if it just had a little bit more of a mid, you know, just something in the middle that little less switch and more articulation. And then you find out you cut it. You know, I used to cut it with a Blackface Showman. Yeah. Okay, we're getting somewhere. And then I used to use those JCM 900 or JCM 2000, the stereo straight cabs. Yeah, dude. And I'd use those things until the baffle boards would give out, the speakers would fall out. And then I found that I liked the sound of Marshalls through 2 tracks. versus vis-a-vis 412, which is somewhat of a contradiction in terms. Most people associate a Marshall amp with a 4x4, and that's great, and they do a thing. But I like the sound of less speakers, more power, and then being that I'm an opposite guy, through our friend Zach Wild, discovered that these kind of JCM 800 Silver Jubilees amps that he was running at the time sounded way tighter and more articulate with electric voice speakers. So now you're sitting there going, okay, Joe, you don't like 412s. That's common practice. And Celestials and Marshalls are like peanut butter and jelly. And I'm like, no, I like the EVs. I like 212 EVs with Marshalls and in 4x12 cabinets split in the center. That's just something I came up with. And then when I went to deal with the Fender component, I found that I like Celestials in the Fender.
How funny, man.
How long were the swaps? Do you think about the time you spend swapping things out? Because to me, swapping speakers, pickups, etc., we're different guitar players, of course, but do you factor that into your routine, or is it just like, this is happening?
Well, I found that...
We got a guy for it.
Well, we have people for these things. If I'm not hearing something, or if I'm hearing something that's a little bit off to me, meaning that the mids are not... Because first of all, when you're running 7 amps, your biggest challenge is earth and phase. Is it buzzing? Because it will buzz. So I use these Layla P-splits.
I love those, dude.
And they're great. They're passive. There's no power. And it does earth and it does a phase. So the first thing you're doing when you're running 4 amps at the same time, it's basically what I do, is 4 amps at the same time. You want to get them all moving air in the same direction. And then you start hearing deficiencies in your speakers. Because I run everything as loud as it'll go, the Jubilees are as loud as they go. Not as much gain, but it's loud, wide open. The twins, the high-power twins are basically wide open. The Dumble stuff is pretty much as loud as it goes. And so when you're bashing on that kind of equipment for 5 nights a week, doing 5-week tour, and there's 24 shows, the fatigue is you're gonna run through some Celestials. The EVs tend to be okay, but I have ripped, both on the Celestial side and the EVs, I have ripped baskets out of it.
So what does that look like in the physical world?
It looks like when you can look through the amp grill and see the other side, or see the drums.
There's a straight hole.
Yeah, I went up
A Bonamassa cannonball.
I could feel like you feel like a sag on the tone. Something's weird with the twins today. And I thought maybe we killed the speaker because the high power twin has 2 taps, and it's I believe it is 4 ohms, and so it's 2 4-ohm taps. Don't quote me on that.
Oh, don't let us know, bro.
2 4-ohm taps. And originally Leo used RCA jacks on the original ones, but on my signature one that Fender did a few years ago, we used 1/4 inch because it's so easy. But sometimes, one of the speakers will kick off, but the amp's still functioning with one speaker because they're not in series. And this one time I was just playing, I just went for a lead or something. It's weird and squishy. It's that sound check. And then I looked through the top twin, and I can see the drum kit. I think we have it's, if you watch, when you're running at high volume, you have, an amp that's 100 watts that has a lot of articulation and tight on the low end. The violent movement of those speakers, it's a surprising one has to show. Because it is absolutely pushing as much.
It's like so percussive, man.
It's so percussive, and that's why you have to, our cabinets have way too many screws in the back because they'll rattle off.
Yeah. You just get to secure it.
So it's a way of doing things. Is it the right way? I am not sure, but the end result is an interest. People who play to it, we play to it, we both do this. It's addicting. once you harness the volume and understand that it's all symbiotic, everything. Like there'd be nights, even with using the power, the Kikusu power conditioners, there's nights when Reese Winans will hit his Leslie switch, like a foot switch, and it comes through the rig.
Yeah,
It's
man.
all the rig.
Wow.
It's all
It's like a living, breathing.
when it's angry, it will.
It lets you.
It lets you know when it's not happy, because you'll just get weird buzzes and things. Sometimes you got to shut an amp off, start again, and reset it.
We find ourselves sometimes in situations just like this where we're playing through unfamiliar gear. What are some of your strategies for sounding like yourself? What do you find that could be like a sound check style riff or some way to kind of get locked into whatever you're vibing with?
Well, what you want to do, I mean, like, I don't like a lot of treble, and so I always say charity starts at home. Is like PJ's bright. It's a bright guitar, so I keep the tone pilot at 7, and very rarely do I find myself soloing all the way on 10, because that's when it's the brightest, and so I'll tend to knock it back to 8.5 or 9, and just kind of vacillate between those. Sometimes you go all the way. Because what I really like to do is,
Neil Sean. And some more Bono Masono. Bono Masono. Bono Masono.
in the mid-range and in the bass.
I have a
response.
new original I put together
Strings.
for tonight
So
when
you
I'm
have,
finished
like,
at the end, if you stick around, on my keyboard workstation, bass, keys, and drums, and I'll play guitar.
The wound strings, obviously, because you can't bend the D string.
Do you like my tone? Isn't it a flurry
Yeah,
of
but
beauty?
you would want to put that down.
You just put it up and
I bet the kids hate it.
So notice the transition between.
Oh, check this out.
So I just keep moving the tone and the volume to where the transition between the wound string and the unwound string kind of feels the same underneath the string while you're playing. And the faster I play, conversely, sometimes the lower I put the volume on the guitar because I want it super articulate. Like my kryptonite has always been too much gain, too much squish, and the recovery rate.
Yeah, you're not using any of the gain pedals that I have set up here, but there's just like a bass Marshall sound.
Yeah, I feel like your magic though lies in your articulation and your playing. It's not even a volume thing. It's almost like you said. When I play your rig, I go, wow, he doesn't use a lot of treble, or it's always dialed back. But what it is your accuracy of your playing. I feel like that's what translates to give it that bigger sound.
Yeah, and it's slower than you think, and it's just accurate. And I'd rather be way slower but accurate in where everything, because there's nights like there's a couple of settings on my rig where it's really honest, and I do it on purpose. And it's like, wow, if you don't have it, I'm jumping out of that set. I mean, I have a square, I have a switch set.
I have an escape route for
I got these from
Yeah, it's called
Paul Gilbert. It's really cool.
Take it.
That's a pretty good one.
There are nights where you think you need to return all the money because you just got.
You can do any kind of flurry you want, but the pattern is.
And then there are nights where you think, okay, I can see the fingerboard and the time compression. Like on stage you're playing something that's coming by to the audience really fast.
I don't think I've ever heard that kind of term, time compression, like when you're on stage.
That's where the 10,000 hours come from. So imagine if you're a tennis player, you're a pretty good hobbyist level tennis player. Then you get out there with a real pro. Next thing you know, this tennis ball's flying by your head at like 150 miles an hour. And you're going, how does this person live in that world where they can actually see the ball?
Yeah, that this
and
is normal.
enough to return it. And same thing with baseball, same thing with golf, same thing with driving a race car. Okay, I could Lewis Hamilton could hand me the keys to his Ferrari F1 car, and then I can hand him the keys to a Toyota Prius, and he'd still beat me. But also, he lives at 200 plus miles an hour. That's not a big deal. I go 200 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah.
Like I'd be in an airport. It's time compression. So you're hearing things and you're living things much slower on stage than it's going by to the audience. Like if you ever watch the clip of you've been breaking the string on show.
Oh, of course.
Okay, the time that it takes for you to unplug, get another guitar, put it in, you think
20 minutes.
20 minutes has gone by. But if somebody happens to video it, it's seamless. There's that very famous footage of Stevie Ray Vaughan on Austin City Limits, Renee Martinez.
Puts the guitar over
He
him.
breaks the string, and it's seamless, and he gets a big round of applause. To Stevie, that probably felt like a lot longer than it actually took.
Yeah, he was probably sitting there going, let's go, let's go.
Let's go. Feel what you're going to play going into the next bar before the next bar hits. If you're oh shit, what am I going to do right now? It's going by. You're on the back side of it. You want to lean forward and totally take control of those, because this way you could tell more stories.
How would you describe the physical feeling of being in that kind of flow state?
Well,
Straight Les Paul. That was split coil.
Imagine Adderall would help. Okay.
Yeah, imagine. That could give you a nice idea.
You may get a little jittery. The vibrato may get.
We don't endorse experimenting with that around us,
Like Haight Ashbury, 1967. Anyway, when you get in, different artists have different sounds. Some people call it hitting the note or whatever. It's part it's the same thing. You're one with the songs that you're making and one with the audience, which is also a big part of the show. The audience makes or breaks the show. A quiet audience, you can do whatever. You can be banging it out and killing it. Or if they're not,
No feedback.
and that's the 30% that they get part of the show. So ultimately for me, when you find yourself kind of on the back side of that wave, the way to shake that off is don't double down and go for weird things. Go back to the basics and nail those, and then
Even for your own artistic expression, it's not.
fuck the artistic expression. I got paying customers.
It's kind of like if someone was like on a bike and you did a trick and everyone was just kind of like, yeah, that's cool. And you're like, what's really going to get them? When I try this double backflip that I have.
That's where a lot of people, it's the simplest thing I do. It's devastating dynamics. Is you pull them forward. You make them lean forward in the track. And then if you want to sting them,
But I mean, the band is simmered.
There's quiet, there's bringing it down, there's blues quiet, and then there's Buddy Guy quiet.
Those are the 4 stages of quiet.
Exactly. The Buddy Guy quiet is the world I like to live in. Where it's
Buddy Guy Quiet would be like,
Buddy Guy quiet is you barely touch it. A 3,000 seat theater. You could basically, if I stand close enough to the vocal mic, they can almost hear the acoustics.
yeah,
That's gorgeous.
even in a big venue like that.
Yeah, and it's because you get people listening, and it's really on for them. It's really a thing where they're rooting for, because it's like watching someone walk over the Grand Canyon on a tightrope. Yeah, and that's one of the things. It's also in this style of music, you want some variety in the show. It can't just be an assault on it, because it's like after 3 songs you've kind of heard it, done it. We have about 75 songs in our book that we can pull out. If we're gonna pull out some stuff from way back, we'll sound check that. but a lot of times I'll switch the show 30-40% a night just honestly for no other reason, just to keep the band engaged. You don't want it to become like Broadway, where it's the same marks. It's not a play. It's a snapshot in time.
Here's something though about Joe that I think blows my mind more than anything is the whole thing of all the country stuff and the Danny Gatton stuff, and how I feel like with you, something that a lot of people brush over is that whole side that you had in your playing from the beginning, basically.
He taught me.
Yeah.
He taught me when I was a kid, and he was the one that made my whole world go from mono to stereo. He was like, he goes, you know, kid, you know what a Les Paul is.
How old were you?
I was 12 when I met him. Wow. At the Silver Lake Blues Fest and Hog Roast in Silver Lake, New York.
That's awesome.
And it was Danny Gatton and Clarence Gatemouth Brown.
Whoa.
Joe,
and the
he's
Cold
all
Shop
right,
Blues Band,
man.
which I was sitting
He's
in
such a nerd, but he's okay.
And
a great player.
and,
I think
you know,
he's a
this
great
guy,
player.
You know, it's just I just remember sitting in the side stage watching me play. After I get up, he goes, "Hey, kid, you want to see a cool Telecaster?" Because I was playing this Japanese reissue red Tele. I still have, and so he pops open this.
I still have my
that
Sears
beat
and
up
Roebuck
53. I'm
silver
like, I'd
tone
never seen a
amp
black
and
guy.
guitar.
You're like,
This is a
whoa.
really
I was
good
like, holy
neck.
crap, this is like cool. He's like, "Come on, you want to sit in with us?" It's like, my name's Danny, and I used to do stuff like this, you know, when I was a kid. His father used to bring him out to like Bluegrass Festival. He was a banjo player.
Wow.
And
My
So, I mean,
significant
he was-
other is
he
from
was
the
going to
hills of
Winnebago,
Kentucky.
yeah.
We've been together 31 years, 32. She can fiddle, and she knows Keith. She babysat Keith Whitley when he was a little
so
kid and
fast,
knew him his
you
whole
know?
life till he died.
And
I'll tell you a story. The first time I went up to eastern Kentucky
Yeah.
hills,
But he
went
would-
fishing with her
you know,
brother. For real.
He taught me how to use the hybrid, the
Cool, yeah, I like it. I do that.
I'm a little rusty on this. Check it out.
Oh, no, it's good.
But he also taught me how to use the volume, like the Buchanan thing.
Another
Enough
epic
of the
moment
phaser.
for Joe.
Just straight Les Paul.
Just that.
That's so cool.
Now, this is just
There's
channel
no
2 of
ambiance
my
in this amp, and
5150
that's
with
really
biased,
difficult to do without
biased
some-
tubes.
There's some over there. But
I work on my amps a lot.
Well, we were talking about taper and the
I
pots.
can't get the damn my
helps
tone
you-
through to
you
the
know, you have
YouTube
and you need a
live yet at all, but these are getting better. Still not great, but best I got. Cool, Joe.
And Les Paul's a little harder because it's a front pickup only. Easiest guitar to do it is on a Strat.
Is that
Because
right?
the volume's right there.
So much you can do with volume
Just
controls,
over,
man.
A few days ago, he's got like the ultimate tone picking I've ever seen. It's like
I saw that clip where
Pick,
he's
pick,
doing
pick,
wah.
pick, pick.
It's like an old steel player, man.
Crazy.
Use that tip.
It's really
Hard, thin, very hard and
Yeah.
thin.
a lot of my favorite guitar players, though, are
There we go.
very complimentary of the actual instrument, how much value they find in just these knobs here.
It's infinite amount of sound. I did this whole thing.
Less
years ago with
reverb.
guitarists.
Teeny bit of
seeing
echo.
And you know, it was one of those those European press tours that you do, and we had a long day. And at the end of it, we had a long day. And I was there with my tour manager Clay, and we were at John Henry's in London. And they're like, "Okay, now that we're done with all this, we were promised a half-hour guitar lesson on camera." And I'm like, "Nobody told me that." And I go, "I could teach you everything I know in like 15 minutes, okay? It's just I can't teach you how to apply it. That's a personal thing." So I'm like, oh shit, what am I gonna do? And I just somebody handed me it was like a Dickie Betts
I remember this, bro. Yeah.
and some Lazy J.
The Lazy J.
They didn't hook you up with the dual Marshalls?
What stood between me and a martini was this 30-minute lesson.
He's like, let's get this over with.
But you know the feeling. Of
course.
You've checked out. And like I said, so I come up and I completely blagged the whole fucking thing. And then it was one of the first videos of mine that went viral. And it was polarizing, like everything I do, just because I have an opinion. It's polarizing. Well, it's my opinion that I put into practical use. And I said, hey kids,
Uncle Joe here.
Uncle Joe.
On the internet, dude.
Information of how you don't know your own fucking instrument, and I'm like, check this out. You want fresh cream, you want fresh cream. Cool. You want bloom. Going, I got one cable, I got one amp. I'm too lazy because the amp is in the shop and it's way back. I just turned the whole thing up and I was just using the volume. I said, you realize that all of
I got
the
my
sounds
stool
in
right
your
here.
head
It's perfect when I
can come out
my
of this
footstool.
this thing right here. Not forget these. This. It's just how you tweak the sound and how you tweak
Exactly.
and what
phrasing, how you
what are you hearing
communicate.
in here, and how are you channeling that through the guitar? So it's, and then then the comments. It's like, well, I would do it this way. I'm great.
That's amazing.
I know.
That's
I can't
that's
believe some of the
amazing.
comments. He's one of the
Please
best
do it
players in the
your own
world.
way and disregard everything.
Blues.
Do you think it's
rock
way
players.
more fun and easy to talk about how you do it than to actually do it, though?
Well,
I would, just comment.
I'm choosing my words very carefully.
Tread lightly. Everything can be edited.
I respect anyone who goes out there on a stage, puts himself out there. My hat's off to you, okay? Because it is very, very difficult. Where I draw the line is in the phone and the platforms has given everybody a voice in which some of them, upon having a couple of old REH instructional videos.
Harlem Rock.
Dude, I got you. I'm the troll.
Okay, a couple of REH.
yourself.
That was so funny. You just said that.
Not ready for prime time, because Arlen Ross, they were better production.
Dude, Arlen was a legend.
He's a legend. Rudimentary, basic knowledge of guitar and 3 whole gigs under their belt. Reactions these things elicit, they all of a sudden think that we're peers. We're not, because I've been doing this 37 years. You've been doing this your whole life, over probably 30 years, and we've learned how to adapt in situations when the shit hits the fan. That's when you make your money. That's how it's like. Okay, amps out. How are we gonna do this?
Yeah.
Okay, how am I gonna entertain these folks when we, our drum, the snare drums, all those things don't factor into someone's opinion until they actually get some real life experience, and then by all means, tell me what you.
I consider myself a very hard worker on the road and all of the things. I look directly at you for the amount of shows that you've played over your time, but also every single time I talk to you, you're on tour. You're always working. So it's really hard to listen to someone say something or even to tell me about, well, if I were you, I wouldn't be using that amp. I'd be using this or I'd be doing this. And I would never do a vibrato like that. Or, Leslie West, no, he wasn't good, man. Have you ever heard of, and then you go, okay, cool. This is great. But also you're talking to someone that has spent their whole life playing on a stage. And
Everyone's opinion is the same.
bro, it's just some.
I'm allowed to have one. You're allowed to have one. It's music, man.
Yeah.
I'm embodying the trolls, brother.
That's completely right. That everybody is entitled to their opinion, and not everything that we do as musicians or artists is for everyone. And you have to take that criticism. I can describe the troll that we're thinking about.
Said troll.
Personify the troll.
As he does it, can you try and make the troll on the side? You can
I
Photoshop
remember
the
we were
troll.
working at Ocean Way Studios in Nashville. Josh Josh Smith, my co-producer on all these records, we were doing, I want to say, whatever we were doing, one of Reese's records, or Reese record or something like that. And I pick him up from the hotel in downtown Nashville, and we come down 3rd Avenue, and we make a right on Broadway. We're just heading towards Ocean Way. And it was about 10 o'clock in the morning, and I think they start early.
They start early on there on
The
Bogner.
first shift started at 10:30.
Rumor has it wagon wheel 10:30 on the dot.
We're hitting it 10:31 wagon wheel.
Come on. It's Bloody Marys and Luke Bryan covered. You know. Anyway, I saw this guy pull up. He had like this beat down Toyota RAV4. And he pulls up to one of those honky tonks. He gets out and you could tell he's visibly angry. And he has a guitar, and he's got one of those little Music Man combo amps, maybe like an HD30 or something. I mean, it's like beat the shit. And he's got a cart, like those.
Like a buggy, yeah.
You gotta have good tires on those things these days.
Well, the cart falls out of his vehicle, and you could tell at one point he had a real lush 80s long hair that had, receded, but he never cut it, and
Not time yet.
the car falls out, and I'm watching this with Josh, and then this guy just loses his shit. He takes his guitar, his pedal board, and his amp, sans cart, and he just flings it onto the sidewalk. He gets back into his car, drives up 5th Avenue North to find parking. His gear.
Oh, he just left his shit.
He wants to take it to take this shit.
That's when you've reached saturation point on Broadway. That's when you've decided that the reality of your situation, the gravity is finally hit.
10:30 a.m. on a Monday.
Hungover again, but I know people that have played Broadway and they enjoy it, And
I would say this though, man. Above all, with what you said and what you were talking about, all jokes aside, I often think to myself when people have so much hatred or so much to say or so much to defend with music, I always think in my head, I'm like, relax. It's guitar. It's music. The one thing in this world that I love, and it's so personal to all of us, why would you ever be a bully or a cyberbully or defend things that are just so... Guitar's fun. This is meant to be...
Music's fun. When you see people going, because of some thing that goes on in the world, I'm taking my music and my bat and ball. You assume that the sun won't rise tomorrow.
Right.
It's like you become so self-obsessed and thinking what you're doing is so fucking important. It's not. It's important in the sense that you're be able to entertain people and provide an escape hatch for a very crazy world. That's it. Other than that, enjoy the dump. People take the piss out of me every day. I'm happy to take the beat down. And you know why? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Somebody likes this shit. That's the bottom line. And everybody has a lane. Jared, you created a great lane for yourself. I've created a lane. You've created a lane. And anybody who hates on either all three of us on the lane itself, obviously does not have the number of a good, a good pave and cement guy.
We're flying past that.
Well, it's also too, you did something positive as opposed to dwell on the negative and be bitter about it.
Right.
A lot of the vitriol is just people are bitter because they want to blame someone else for their lack of, not accomplishment, but just the being able to live that dream that we all did when we sat in our bedrooms and played guitar. And some people go further than others. And the ones that are really bitter are the ones that are like, well, I didn't get that because it was political. I didn't get that. But no, it's probably not. There's probably you're probably hard to work with.
There's some more stuff going on.
You got Salieri syndrome, or you have, Yoko syndrome, and it's like, you can't be, if you're in a band, you can't be toxic. You don't want to just. You got to work well with others. If you're the band leader, even more important, you got to work well with others. You got to keep people inspired and morale up. And especially in those days when you have to like, you know, you have a 900-mile drive.
Oh, yeah.
5 in a row, and the cats are beat down, and it's like, hey guys, Cracker Barrel on me.
Let's go. Yeah, we're going to the Cracker Barrel.
Anyway, I have to split because I have some home stuff to do.
Jam really quick? 2-minute jam with us?
Okay, I'll play rhythm. You play lead, Joe.
Oh, God, here we go. How about something like this? What the hell?
Wow.
Whoa. Getting a headache a little bit. Yeah, thanks. I have to cut it.
Somebody who teaches,
Thanks for watching.
teach too. Being able to explain what you're doing and then doing it
Not
and
another
doing
one.
it at a level he does.
Please stop. Yeah, I'm gonna get a headache if I keep going, and my blood, I need stuff for my blood sugar and stuff. Thanks for watching. Sorry about that noise and my memory. I got holes in the bottom of my shoes and I can't even do my damn pedals. Look at that. They're my favorite shoes. I miss my damn pedals. I can't even get my damn pedals going here. All right. All right. I played for a while. I drummed today. I'll fade you out on my drumming.